Okay, let's dive into this. We're looking at a really dark chapter from late 80s Vienna today. The Favoritener Mädchenmord, or the Favoriten girl murders. A series of truly brutal crimes. They terrified the 10th district, sparked this massive investigation. One of the biggest in Austrian history, really. Everyone was hunting for this single predator, this beast.
Right, but the fascinating thing, and the core of this story, is how that initial narrative just completely collapsed. It's almost a classic case study in how forensic science, specifically DNA, can rewrite history. It shattered that single killer idea and revealed something much more complex. 2 killers, not 1.
So let's set the scene for that initial fear. What made the police so sure it was one person? It started with Alexandra Schreifel, 20 years old, October 88, found tied to a tree, strangled with her own clothes. Very staged, very ritualistic.
Exactly. And then just 3 months later, February 89, and literally a 5-minute walk away, 10-year-old Christina Baranek, same terrible fate, tied up, this time to a stair railing, strangled with her own tights.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. That close together, same district, same distinctive method. You can see why they thought serial killer.
Absolutely. The methods seemed identical. But then, fast forward almost 2 years, December 1990, Nicole Strau, only 8 years old. Also raped, also strangled. But the details were wrong. Different weapon shoelaces, a branch, and crucially, that sort of ritualistic posing, it was gone. That really muddied the waters.
Right. So that third case must have thrown a huge wrench into their single killer theory. And meanwhile, this huge manhunt, you said what, nearly 4,000 people questioned?
Almost 4,000, yeah. An enormous effort. But this was the late 80s. Forensics was basically limited. They had biological traces, sure, but analyzing them, they were stuck with these less precise blood group tests. Just wasn't enough to nail anyone down.
So the evidence was there, kind of sitting in storage, waiting.
Like a scientific time bomb, as some called it. And the clock started ticking faster in October 1997. That's when Austria rolled out its national DNA database. Suddenly, those old samples from '88, from Alexandra Schreifel's murder, they could yield a proper profile.
And then the breakthrough comes, but not through some cold case unit breakthrough.
Right.
Almost.
Random.
Completely random. Almost unbelievable. It's 2000. A guy named Herbert Petsch gets arrested after a simple pub brawl. Nothing major. Routine procedure. They take a saliva sample, run it against the new database, and bam!
A perfect match. To the Schreifel case, 12 years later.
12 years later, perfect match. Herbert Petsch killed Alexandra Schreifel. But here's where it gets really critical for the investigation.
Okay.
Petsch's DNA didn't match the Nicole Strau case. So confirming Petsch actually proved he wasn't the only killer active back then.
So that forced them to look again at Nicole Strau's murder specifically.
Exactly. They revisited early suspects. One guy, Michael Petzel, had been looked at but had an alibi apparently, and he'd resisted giving a sample. But now, with the Petsch DNA excluding him from Schreifel, the focus shifted. A judge actually ordered Petzel to provide a sample in 2001. It matched. Michael Petzel was confirmed as Nicole Strau's killer. Incredible. So DNA definitively finds 2 separate killers for 2 of the murders. But that leaves the middle case. Christina Baranek, the 10-year-old. You're saying that one is still officially unsolved. How?
And that's the tragic paradox here. From an investigative standpoint, the police are certain, utterly convinced. They believe Herbert Petsch, the man who killed Alexandra Schreifel, also killed Christina Baranek.
Based on
the MO. The proximity, same area, just months apart, the ritualistic staging, tied up, strangled with her own clothing. It's almost identical to Schreifel's murder. Too many parallels to ignore.
Okay, investigators are sure. But legally, what stopped it? Why no conviction?
The science hit a wall, essentially. They had biological traces from Christina's crime scene back in 1989, but by the time they had the technology and knew who to compare it against, the sample quality, it just wasn't good enough.
Degraded over time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The preservation methods back then weren't what they are now. They couldn't get usable mitochondrial DNA, couldn't meet that high legal standard of proof needed for a conviction. So scientific certainty, yes. Legal proof, no.
Wow. So Vienna lived in fear of one beast, but the hard truth, delivered by DNA years later, was that there were 2 distinct predators.
2 predators, and a lingering question mark over the third victim. It really underscores something important, doesn't it? Even with DNA, arguably the most powerful tool we have, scientific truth and legal conviction aren't always the same thing. There can still be these gaps, these unsolved corners.
A chilling thought.
It left a deep scar. You know, the lead investigator, Ernst Geiger, he actually wrote a thriller novel later called Heimweg. Apparently, it was partly his way of processing the trauma and the The sheer strangeness of this case, going from one killer to two and then that one unresolved tragedy, it leaves you thinking, doesn't it? Science tells us so much, but sometimes the full story remains just out of reach.